Good day, Chief here for Chief Tells Tales. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know it's been a while. I'm going to talk a little bit about post-retirement and dealing with finances. And also want to talk about the Thrift Savings Program, which I did not partake in because at the time it came in my military career, I already had a tiny financial plan with First Command. And if anybody has dealt with First Command, back in the time that I was first got involved with them, it was for like officers only, and it was kind of like a tradition to go talk to them when you became an officer, because I was recommended by a fellow warrant officer, because when I showed up for my appointment, I said, "How did you guys find out about me?" And they basically told me that a fellow warrant officer had recommended me to come here. And I was, I guess, fortunate enough to have taken my children along with me to this appointment. And even though they were younger, the financial advisor talked to them, and we set up a couple programs. We set up one program that was going to start saving me money to make money for my future. And another one was to pay off a credit card debt. I had a very extensive credit card debt thanks to divorce and a few other things that just kept adding up. Even I think I was up to 3 credit cards at that time. How I had 3 credit cards, I don't know. I have excellent credit all my life, which is really odd, even after 2 divorces and a house that was up and abandoned. I think I talk about that briefly. It almost cost me my military career at the very beginning because I got called into my company commander at my first AIT and says, "We're going to have to start chaperoning you out." And I go, "Why?" And he says, "Because you got excessive debt." And I go, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, your house is being foreclosed on." So I says, "Well, wait 1 minute, sir. Let me go upstairs and get this piece of paper." So I have a power of attorney that, basically said my wife can sign my name when it comes to any transactions with the house. Of course, it didn't cover up an abandonment and foreclosure, but that saved my neck. So getting back to First Command, like I said, they set up 2 programs. It was a chunk of change out of my WO1 pay, Warrant Officer 1 pay. I was still having issues with some other financial thing that I finally had to work out, and took over a year to get it resolved, and then that finally helped too. So when, like I said, Thrift Savings Program came out, I'm like, yeah, this is a wonderful idea. Wish it started when I was kind of first in, but I sat there, like I said, I already got something with First Command. And then when my mother passed away, I received half of her Fidelity investment. So that was another chunk of change that I wasn't expecting on. So then I'm like, well, at that time I didn't realize I only had 5 more years in the military, because that was 2008, and didn't realize I was going to be retiring at the end of 2013. So 5 years. Yeah, I probably could have started a Thrift Savings Program, but I was like, nope, I just got this chunk of change, so this makes me happy. And I watched it grow slowly, because it was during the Democrat. What can I say? I had a discussion after the Republican businessman took over after 8 years of a Democrat controlling the investments of the United States, because regardless of what you think, the president creates policy that generates or loses money. And if we remember, somebody was trying to ship all our jobs, during that NAFTA, whatever the heck that ridiculous program. Because even in the military, I'm like, oh yeah, let's ship all the U.S. jobs overseas, because why? I mean, I live here in San Antone, and San Antone had the last factory where they were making Levi jeans. and it's now a like a city construction. They got all their city trucks sitting there, big old warehouse and everything else. I drive by it every time I go to Fort Sam. So that finally prepared me for the financial thing. But we're all told in our military career, if you serve 20 years at minimum, as they keep saying, you should retire with this $1 million portfolio. Okay, I should have a $1 million portfolio. Well, me being having enlisted late in the late age, almost the maximum age in order to enlist, and then serving 28 years, I was closer to retirement age for Social Security than if I was an 18-year-old who did serve 20, you'd be 38, and if I served 30, you would have been 48. But Social Security ain't going to kick in for another 20, 30 years, so to speak, depending on what year you were born and if they keep raising the age where you can retire. I meant because for the longest time, I think 60 was the age to retire. Then it jumped up to 62. And then in my case, it jumped up to 65 for retirement, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I know. Look it up on the internet, Chief, and they'd be more fully prepared, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. So, $1 million portfolio. But no one sits down and says, okay, what kind of income do you want to live on? Well, that depends on whether you have a house payment or even if you're renting, how much you think your utility bills are going to be, what sports or what activities are you going to be participating in? Because I had 2 warrant officers that I was highly upset with because they said, yep, 20 years and I'll wake up. Going to be out there fishing every day for the rest of my life. I'm going to like, yeah, I don't think so. Both of them were married, and I know their wives probably wouldn't even put up with that, even if they were fishermen to themselves, so to speak. Because same activity gets very tedious after a while. I mean, you can only eat so much fish, and if you're bringing in 2, 3 or fish a day, you'll be giving it away, and then people will be like, what do you do? Oh, I just fish all the time. Yeah, right. That's not for me. I hate fishing. I'm a good fisherman. I catch fish every time I do fish, but I just can't sit there idly waiting for a fish to climb onto my hook for me to snag him into the shoreline. I'll catch 1 or 2 and I'll be like, okay, I'm done. Then I'll go play in the water and all the fishermen will be mad at me because, oh, you're scaring all the fish away. Well, tough. But they never tell you $1 million, how to manage that. So let's say you want to live after you figure everything else out, and you are dependent on this to be your income for your retirement. But if you serve that long, you got your military pension. And like me, I was close to 30 years, which is almost 75%. I got 72.84% of my salary. So I was looking good. Can I live on that? At first I couldn't because my disability hadn't kicked in yet. We'll talk about that maybe another time. But yeah, so until my disability kicked in, I couldn't. I was spending more money than I was bringing in when I first retired. And it wasn't foolishness. It was just adjusting to the new income because, yeah, it was 72% of what I was previously making, but however, none of my bills went down to 72% previously, so it's not like my bills dropped. They stayed either the same or increased slowly over time. So, okay, and then again, disability helped me out because once my disability came in, I was starting to balance out and then adjusting. And that took 6 months for that to kick in. So for the first 5 months, I was overspending what I was raking in. So maybe I should have taken out like $1,000 or $2,000 out of that $1 million portfolio that you should have that I don't. I'm not even halfway there yet, folks, because I started too late. I started 5 years before I retired. But you never get a class on that. Because not only when you take out that money, there's that, yeah, it's from your portfolio, but it's not just dollars sitting there. It is invested here, there, everywhere, depending on what you set up. So when you take away from that, it's no longer a title as an investment. You convert it to cash. So guess who wants part of that cash? The IRS. I did this once before I retired, and I found out the hard way that I had to borrow against my previous, the one I set up with First Command, thinking, hey, I've already paid X amount into it, so that cash should come back over, because that was already taxed before it went over to get into those accounts. But no, you converted it into cash, so it got taxed again. Don't understand how the tax laws work, but oh well. Doesn't matter. So if you're taking out the 1 to 2,000, you need to take almost up to 20% more, depending on your tax bracket, what percent you are paying. I found that, like I said, I found it out the hard way because I took X amount of dollars out, paid off something, an emergency that came up, and lo and behold, 3-4 months later down the road, I got a bill from the IRS saying, oh, you owe tax money on this amount of cash that you just recently converted. So you got to be careful. Like I said, nobody taught us. So if you are going to depend on your $1 million portfolio, be careful with it. Make sure you take out enough to live on and also pay that tax. But then again, don't make it a big chunk of change, because let's say you go extreme. I want to live on an additional $5,000 a month. Okay. So that means you got to take out about another, 20% of that is about another $1,200. So that's $6,200. So that's $62,000 in 10 months. 12. So that's about $74,000. That's almost $100,000. So if you did that and you don't have a robust plan that is replacing that same amount, you'll be broke in 10 to 11 years. Just saying. Me, it's sitting there to give to my kids or in case of emergency. Like something's not coming, like I get super sick and it's not all fully covered under the VA. There, I've got a good chunk of change to pay for a hospital bill. Well, that's it for the day. Thrift Savings Plan, go for it. It's a start, but to diversify, like I have a little bit. I also got 4 bank accounts with cash. I know someone's going to, oh, Chief, we want your money. Yeah, good luck finding all my bank accounts. Good luck. I only use one, but I've got 3 others that are tucked away elsewhere, so to speak. Here, there, everywhere. So, Chief out. Hope you have a good pre-holiday. And remember, freedom's not free. We just did Veterans Day. I hope you treated a veteran nice. I did not participate in any of the free meals. I should do that occasionally just to get something decent out of the house. So remember, freedom's not free. Treat your vets nicely. Chief out.